Welcome to the series on Azure Migrate, your free migration and modernization platform, which helps you move workloads in a consistent and secure manner to Azure. In this video, we will show you how to generate a business case to help estimate cost and savings before moving to Azure. If you have watched the previous videos in the series, you must already be aware of how a typical migration journey is divided into stages of decide, plan, and execute. Here we will cover the decide phase of the migration journey, which involves developing a business case, securing stakeholder buy-in, and selecting the appropriate cloud strategy to ensure alignment with the organization's goals. Azure Migrate tooling assists customers in this phase by helping them discover their data center, visualize network dependencies, and creating a business case to visualize TCO and evaluate the ROI to migrate to Azure. Before we get to the demo, you need to ensure that you have created an Azure Migrate project and discovered your data center inventory through the Azure Migrate appliance or through import. To ensure accurate calculations, please fix any discovery issues before building the business case. Let's move on to a project where we have already discovered the data estate that you intend to migrate. The new overview screen comes up, which helps you navigate through your migration journey in a structured manner. You can see the discovered inventory, and there are no visible discovery issues in this scenario. To envision savings and ROI for migrating to Azure, let's click on Build Business Case. Give the business case a unique name. Now you need to select the scope for the business case. You may choose to leave it to the default, which is the entire data center. However, you can also choose to build the business case on a scoped set of workloads by choosing the Selected Workloads option. Click on Add Workloads to select the scope for your business case. You may choose all the different applications that you have tagged and add them to the scope of this business case. However, in this case, we will choose to create the business case on the entire data center, as that will present the complete picture to get a stakeholder buy-in. Once you have finalized the scope, click on Next. Choose the location in which you wish to build the business case. Choose the migration preference between modernize or minimize migration time. If you choose minimize migration time, choose the target workload between Azure VM or Azure VMware solution. We will leave this to modernize, as the discovered inventory contains databases as well as web apps, which we intend to modernize. Next, you can choose the savings option combination that you want to be considered while optimizing the Azure costs and maximizing savings based on the availability of the savings option in the chosen region and the target. The business case will recommend the appropriate savings option to maximize savings on Azure. Choose Reserved Instances if there are stable, predictable workloads with no plan changes, or Reserved Instances plus Azure Savings Plan if you want additional flexibility and automated cost optimization for dynamic workloads. In this business case, Azure Savings Plan savings will be calculated for Azure VM and Azure App Service targets. As your savings plan enables you to unlock lower prices on select compute services, when you commit to spend a fixed hourly amount for 1 or 3 years, you can save on compute usage regardless of region, instance, series, or operating system. You can provide any discount percentage that you are anticipating on your pay-as-you-go prices. Once you have chosen all the settings, click on Build Business Case. The overview report that you see is an executive summary of the business case. It helps understand the TCO comparison on premises and Azure and estimated steady-state savings. Here you can see a percentage of savings by moving to Azure with the recommended migration strategy and applying unique Azure benefits like Azure Savings Plan and Azure Hybrid benefits. As customers execute their migration project over the next few years, you can see a more realistic year-on-year cost model, which shows net positive cash flows as customers move from a CapEx-heavy model to an OpEx model. Once it is established that customers are better off on Azure than on premises, they can see cost savings by applying existing Windows and SQL Server licenses to Azure Hybrid benefit. You can also see the savings through extended security updates, savings through security using Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and savings through using management services on Azure. The Discovery Insights section here shows the scope of the business case with insights into what is really ideal for cloud and what can be decommissioned on-premises based on actual usage of resources on-premises. Next, you can see the detailed on-premises versus Azure TCO comparison and find insights into what really is contributing to these savings. I can see the savings across multiple verticals like compute, storage, network, security, management, labor, and facilities. I can also find out insights about the savings under these different verticals. In this case, I see that I saved a certain amount in storage and another amount because of no facilities costs on Azure. In the detailed IaaS report, you can see the recommendations for migrating general servers to Azure virtual machines using 3-year Azure Savings Plan and SQL Server instances to SQL Server and Azure VM using 3-year Savings Plan as well. You can see and compare the license cost savings with and without Azure Hybrid benefit for Windows and SQL. Down in the screen, you can see the TCO and year-on-year cost models for servers and workloads recommended to Azure IaaS targets, like Azure VM and SQL Server on Azure VM. On the On-Premises tab, you can see the on-premises footprint of these servers and see which are reaching end of support and would most benefit by migrating to Azure. In the PaaS report, you can see recommendations for migrating ASP.NET Web Apps to App Service Native using the 3-year savings plan option to maximize savings. Down in the screen, you can see the TCO and year-on-year cost models for workloads recommended to Azure PaaS targets like Azure SQL MI, Azure App Service Containers, and AKS. On the On-Premises tab, you can see the on-premises footprints of the servers hosting these databases and web apps. Migration journeys are traditionally long, and hence, in the Azure Arc report, you can understand additional savings you can generate if you enable Arc on your servers during the course of your migration journey. You can see in this case that there are additional savings if you enable Arc on your on-premises servers across compute, security, and management labor. Although we have taken industry-standard benchmarks for computing the business case, you can even modify the assumptions and configuration manually to generate a more context-specific business case. You can change the assumptions that went into calculating the Azure cost, as well as the assumptions that went into calculating the on-premises cost. You may choose to update license costs under compute, or you may even customize the facilities cost per kilowatt hour in accordance to your convenience to ensure the most accurate calculations. Lastly, you can export this business case in an XLSX format and also understand detailed methodology that went into these calculations. You may also use it to build charts and visualizations for your presentation to the customer. Now that you have learned how you can build a business case to secure stakeholder buy-in to make the decision to migrate to Azure, in the next video, you can learn how Azure Migrate can help you in the planning phase by performing a detailed assessment of the current environment, which you can use to finally execute your migrations to Azure. Thank you for watching this video.